Welcome to On the Fence, the show that is about helping you decide whether or not to spend your hard-earned money on the biggest and possibly best releases in mini form. Nick,
Hans,
we are looking at the latest survival exploration game, but this time instead of being on Steam, it's out on PS4 and all sorts of jazz. This is No Man's Sky.
Hans, what is No Man's Sky?
No Man's Sky is an exploration game where you travel from procedurally generated world to procedurally generated world in a quest to reach the center of the universe. So like it's good that this game gives you an overall objective. You know, it's different to Minecraft where you're just thrown into this sandbox and you gotta do something. It gives you a sense of purpose, which is what a lot of these games tend to lack. So along the way, planet by planet, you've got to gather up resources. You got to trade with aliens that you'll meet, not the bestial aliens, more like, you know, civilized
humanoids or androids.
So like they you'll meet with them, you trade with them, and then as you collect these items and trade and craft things, you know, you build onto your space suit or onto your ship or whatever, or onto your mining pistol gun, because the gun functions as both a mining tool and a pistol.
It's an omni tool.
It's weird is what it is. But so my main problem with this though is that you can't mine the planet dry. They have what I refer to as space police. So if you start to take too much resources from the planet, the space police will come and shoot you down. Unfortunately, the combat is fucking terrible. It's so tacked on. Like any game that has both a jetpack and a gun, the combat should be fun, but this isn't. That problem with the combat actually extends out into space, where you discover space pirates and stuff like that, and that combat is just absolutely dreadful as well. And your ship, it doesn't handle well enough to be a fighter. It is purely for traversal. It's a similar problem that Watch Dogs had. You know, this game was shown as something original, you know, like Watch Dogs had the hacking and this had the exploration, but then they've diluted it down with basic combat, which it just doesn't need.
So No Man's Sky has a Borderlands-esque claim of saying it has 14 quintillion planets, I believe was the most recent one. Does it live up to this claim?
Well, much like Borderlands, it's a fucking very loose term of different. In Borderlands, kind of different meant different stats. They all looked the fucking same and felt the fucking same, but different stats, and they were kind of color swapped. No Man's Sky is along the same lines. Like, I understand this is not a big company. They are not going to get millions upon millions of pounds/dollars to make this game, but a little bit of difference, you know, like it does come down to what different filters are on your first person camera, and they're all the planets just feel the same. There's like, they look slightly different. I mean, essentially what it is, it's just different assets of different planets swapped in and out. Their population of each planet is always the same. You're never going to find a thriving city on any of these planets, and you're never going to find a desolate wasteland. It's a planet that has been recently colonized. Colonized, yeah, that's the term. Colonized. So it's...
You can't... Colonized.
Colonized. Inhabited.
There we go.
Recently inhabited, right? So, like, whenever you scan a planet, different markers will pop up that you go investigate, and you'll find, like, a space station, or not a space station, but like essentially an Apollo shuttle touchdown sort of thing, you know, where it's a very basic building, and then you go inside and there's a lone alien that you can talk to and trade with, and then you scan the map again and you find another marker and you touch down there, and it's another building that looks exactly identical to the one you were just in, with another single alien that you can talk to and trade with. Like, this is rinse repeat throughout the entire thing. It's just there's no different. Like, the buildings all look the same. All these buildings look the same. Their interiors are all the same. There was one building I went to that had been, like, attacked by this mysterious goo. But then, literally on the same planet, I found another building that had been attacked by the same goo that was a different colour. So that's my main objective. Yes, they are technically different, but it is colour swaps, and, you know, the buildings is just slightly larger or smaller.
Do you think that stuff could stem from the procedurally generated nature of it? Obviously, the game was kind of built with formulas rather than as a story-driven experience. Because they've shown bits and pieces of games where, like, say, there's like giant sandworms on planets. Do you think it's maybe just a case of those don't appear often enough in their formulas to make it interesting when you do? So you end up finding more of these boring planets rather than seeing like something unique every so often?
It is possible. I mean, it could just be I got really unlucky with the dice roll sort of thing. But at the same time, I've put in a good 4 or 5 hours. You know, obviously this is the sort of game that's meant to be played for whatever. But I played for a good 4 or 5 hours, and I've only met 2 different civilized alien species, and I've been to about 4 or 5 different galaxies. You know, yes, it's procedurally generated, but you need it's like a good book or a good movie. You need a good solid 10 minutes, a good hook to get them to get the players to keep playing.
So with 14 quintillion planets, it's reasonable to think that how's the performance in this game?
Looking at the technical stuff, the planets, they look great they look great as a postcard. This be the way to describe them. You know, you walk over this plain, this hill, and you see this big open world around you, and it looks fantastic. But then you look at the grass, and you see it's actually like the grass is actually a cross. Like, it's a cross of like a texture.
Yeah.
And then it's just a lot of them lapped over each other to make it look like it's a big flowy meadow. But really it's not. It's the same with some of the trees. From far they look great, but then you get up close and the textures are a bit shit. Another thing, which because of the nature of the game, this should have been rectified. So whenever you're flying over the planet, the draw distance is absolutely terrible. Like, you'll see in the footage in this, but like as I'm flying across a planet at low altitudes, you'll see the other stuff start to fade in, and it's not a subtle fade, it's a really, really obvious one, which I feel like should have been rectified. And it could have been rectified easily by, you know, throwing in some cloud cover onto the planets, you know, and then hide it behind the cloud cover, because that is...
Or dust storms.
Or dust storms as well. You know, these are viable options that could have easily been put in, and it wouldn't have broken the immersion at all, because planets have clouds and planets have dust storms, you know. So technically it's a mixed bag.
So finally, Hans, if I was on the fence about No Man's Sky, what would you say to me?
I would say, Nick, get off that fence. It seems like a very uncomfortable place to sit. I would... I would also say to you, this game is out a year too late. See if this game had been released around the same time where all the other survival games are coming out, like Ark Evolved, Starbound, DayZ, that sort of time, this game would have blown them out of the water, and I think it would have done a lot better for itself. But because it missed that window, I feel like they've tacked on a lot of unnecessary things. You know, this is £45 for this game. It's not cheap. See if this was even like, you know, £30, £25, it would actually be worth your money. But because they've tacked this crappy stuff on, they've diluted the whole exploration side of it. So no, I would not recommend this game. So that is my opinion on No Man's Sky. Hopefully that has helped you decide whether or not you will buy this game.